Okay, so ready to make some serious moves in your career. Become that go-to expert everyone wants to work with. Attract the kind of opportunities you actually dream about.
You're talking about building a killer personal brand, right?
Exactly. And I know personal branding can sound a little buzzy, kind of like eye roll territory,
Really get it?
but this article we found, it really breaks it down in a way that makes total sense.
Yeah, it really gets to the core of it.
So let's dive in. What does it say about what personal branding actually is?
Well, first thing, it's more than just like, your LinkedIn profile or a catchy
It's
bio.
got to be deeper than that,
Way deeper. It's about the whole story you tell the world about who you are.
like a narrative.
Yes, your narrative, what you stand for, what makes you you.
Okay, so what are the pieces of that story? Like, what do the articles say are the key elements?
It emphasized a few things. Values, for sure. Your skills, obviously. And your expertise.
Makes sense. And like how other people see you.
Right. Perception is a huge part of it.
Okay, I'm with you so far. But honestly, why should anyone care so much about this personal branding stuff?
It's not just about vanity. It can actually make a huge difference.
Okay, like how?
Think about it. In a world where everyone's vying for attention online,
Yeah, it's noisy out there.
a strong personal brand helps you cut through that noise.
You stand out.
Right. You become more visible and people start to recognize you for what you do.
That's got to be good for your career.
Exactly. It opens doors to new opportunities, collaborations, even jobs that you might not have found otherwise.
And people are more likely to trust you if you've got a solid brand, right?
Exactly. Credibility is huge.
Okay, I'm convinced. But how do you actually do this? Build a personal brand. I mean, where do you even start?
The article actually lays out a really practical roadmap.
Okay,
And the first step, it's about defining your brand identity, getting crystal clear on who you are, what you want to be known for.
okay.
It's almost like writing a mission statement for yourself.
So like, what's my purpose? What impact do I want to have?
You got it. And what are the guiding principles that drive your work? What do you stand for?
Deep stuff.
It is. But once you have that foundation, everything else starts to fall into place.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's say I've figured out my mission and values. What's next on this roadmap?
Well, think about it. Once you know who you are, you need to show the world.
Introduce yourself.
Exactly. And that means creating a consistent online presence.
I knew this was coming. Social media, here we go.
Can't avoid it these days, but it's not just about being on every platform. It's about being strategic.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, let's start with the basics. Your profiles need to align with your brand.
Meaning?
Think professional headshots, clear bios, consistent messaging across all your platforms.
So people know what to expect no matter where they find you.
Right. Consistency builds trust. And
A
then
website, right.
definitely. Think of it as your digital hub, a place to showcase your work, go into more depth about what you do.
I like that. A home base.
Exactly.
And then, of course, content.
You can't escape it. Blog posts, videos, podcasts, even just regular social media updates.
But it all has to reflect your expertise, your interests, right?
Absolutely. It's got to be authentically you.
Okay, so I've got my profiles looking sharp, my website's up and running, I'm creating awesome content. What else is there?
This is where things get really interesting. It's not enough to just list your skills or accomplishments.
Gotta go deeper.
You got to weave them into a story that people can connect with.
Because stories are powerful, right?
They're how we make sense of the world, how we connect with each other.
So how do we tell our story in a way that resonates?
The article had a great point about this. It said,
Mhm.
people connect with stories, not just facts.
So don't just tell me what you do. Show me why you do it.
Exactly. Share your journey, the challenges you've overcome.
The why, behind the what.
Precisely. What motivates you? What makes you tick? What are you passionate about? Let that shine through.
I like that. It's about being real, being human.
And that's what makes you unique. Nobody else has lived your exact story.
It makes you memorable.
Right. And memorable is good when you're trying to build a brand.
Makes total sense.
Oh.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork.
Mm-hmm.
We've got our story straight. Now what? How do we actually get that story out there?
This is where your unique selling proposition or USP comes in. What makes you different from everyone else?
Like my superpower.
Exactly. Your secret sauce. It's what makes you stand out in a crowded marketplace.
Okay, gotta figure that out.
And just as important, you need to know your audience. Who are you trying to reach? What are their needs, their pain points?
The better you know your audience, the better you can tailor your message.
You got it. It's like trying to sell ice to Eskimos. If you don't understand their needs, you're not going to get very far.
Okay, point taken. So once I've nailed down my USP and my target audience, then it's all about using those social media platforms strategically, right?
Exactly. Each platform is a tool in your personal branding toolbox.
Okay, so walk me through it. How should we be using these tools differently?
All right, well, LinkedIn is your go-to for professional networking
Yeah, that's a given. Showcasing your experience connecting with colleagues.
and positioning yourself as a thought leader in your industry.
Got it. So no cat videos on LinkedIn.
Probably not the best strategy. Now, Twitter, on the other hand,
It's all about those quick, snappy insights, right?
exactly. Engage in conversations, share your thoughts on industry trends, build relationships with other thought leaders.
It's a more fast-paced.
Definitely. Now, Instagram, that's a whole different beast.
It's all visual, right? Pictures, videos, aesthetics.
You got it. It's perfect for showcasing your work, giving people a behind-the-scenes glimpse of your process, or even just sharing your personality.
Showing your human side.
Right, letting people get to know you.
Okay, starting to see how these all fit together. But it's more than just the online stuff, isn't it?
You're right. Your personal brand extends to everything you do. Your offline interactions, your networking, even just how you present yourself in everyday life.
It's got to be authentic.
It all has to align because people can spot a fake from a mile away.
Okay, you've convinced me. Personal branding is a whole lot deeper than I thought. But I got to be honest.
What's up?
I get
Yeah.
intimidated by the whole putting yourself out there part.
Yeah.
It feels vulnerable, you know?
Totally get it. And the article actually talks about some common challenges people face when building their personal brand.
Okay, so what are they?
Well, number one, imposter syndrome. That feeling like you're not good enough, that you're going to be found out as a fraud.
Oh yeah, that voice in the back of your head.
It can be paralyzing.
So how do you deal with it?
You got to recognize those thoughts and challenge them head on.
Easier said than done.
I know, but it's crucial. Remind yourself of your accomplishments, your strengths. Focus on what you bring to the table.
Focus on the positive.
Exactly. And remember, everyone starts somewhere. You don't have to be an expert to have a valuable perspective and a story to share.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
encouraging. What are some other challenges?
Another big one, fear of rejection
Yeah.
or criticism.
Oh, especially online. It can feel brutal sometimes.
It's true. And the article acknowledges that not everyone is going to love your brand or agree with everything you say.
You can't please everyone.
Exactly. And you shouldn't try to. Focus on connecting with the people who resonate with your message, who appreciate your unique perspective.
Find your tribe.
Exactly. And develop a thick skin. Learn to take constructive criticism in stride and just tune out the noise.
Block out the haters.
You got it. And here's the thing. The more you put yourself out there, the easier it gets.
And get used to it.
The fear starts to lessen. You gain confidence and experience.
Okay, that makes sense. But I think a lot of people, especially women, struggle with finding the time for all of this.
Oh, for sure. Especially when you're juggling work, family, all the things life throws at you.
Any tips for making it work?
Well, the article suggested batching your content creation.
Instead of trying to do it all every day.
Right. Set aside a few hours each week to brainstorm, write, schedule your social media posts in advance.
That's smart.
Like meal prepping, but for your content.
I like it. What else?
Use tools and resources to streamline things. Social media scheduling apps, content repurposing tools. There's so much out there to help you work smarter, not harder.
Efficiency is key.
And be realistic about what you can achieve. You don't have to do everything at once.
Small steps. Right?
Exactly. Small, consistent efforts can make a big difference over time.
I love that. Okay, we've talked about defining your brand, crafting your story, the challenges.
Yeah.
But how do you know if it's actually working? Like, how do you measure the success of your personal branding efforts?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, looking forward to that.
But before we move on, I want to touch on one more thing that's super important. Engagement.
What do you mean by engagement?
It's about going beyond just broadcasting your message. It's about actually connecting with your audience.
Having a two-way conversation.
Exactly. Respond to comments, participate in discussions, build relationships, and provide value. Share your insights, answer questions, be a resource for people who are interested in what you have to say. Become that trusted voice in your niche.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
But does that mean everyone has to be a social media butterfly? What about people who aren't super active online? Are they just out of luck?
That's such an interesting question, and it brings up a really important point. Personal branding isn't just about having a flashy online presence. It's about crafting the narrative you present to the world, both online and offline.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
Let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? We always think personal branding, it's all about being online.
It's like the default assumption these days.
But you're right. What about the people who aren't constantly posting and tweeting? Does that mean they can't build a brand?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, imagine a surgeon, right? World-renowned, revolutionizing their field.
But no Instagram account.
Exactly. Are they just invisible brand-wise?
Not necessarily. I mean, think about what personal branding really is at its core. It's how you present yourself, your work to the world. It's the impression you make, the value you deliver. And that can happen offline too.
So you're saying you don't need a huge online presence to have a strong personal brand?
You don't. Remember those foundational principles we talked about? Defining your brand identity, crafting your story, showcasing your expertise.
Yeah.
Those apply whether you're online or offline.
Okay, so how does that work in practice? Like, give me an example.
Okay, let's say you're a furniture maker. You create these amazing handcrafted pieces.
Beautiful, one-of-a-kind stuff.
Exactly. Now, maybe they don't have a fancy website or thousands of Instagram followers.
So how do they build a brand?
They focus on building relationships with local interior designers, art galleries. They participate in craft fairs, design exhibitions.
Word of mouth kind of thing.
Exactly. Their work speaks for itself, and people experience their brand firsthand.
It's tangible, you can see it and touch it.
Right. Think about it. How many times have you discovered a new restaurant or shop because a friend recommended it?
All the time.
It's about trust, those authentic connections. So this furniture maker, by consistently delivering high quality, building those relationships,
They build a reputation.
they build a brand, and they might not even need to be on social media to do it.
Interesting. So they're adapting those core principles of personal branding to an offline context.
Exactly. And it's not just furniture makers. It applies to other professions too.
Like what?
Let's say you're a public speaking coach. You help people overcome their fear of public speaking, give killer presentations.
Sign me up. So how would this coach build their brand offline?
They might focus on giving guest lectures, leading workshops at community centers,
Yeah.
doing pro bono coaching sessions.
So people can experience their coaching firsthand.
Exactly. They could create a referral program, get clients to spread the word,
Word of mouth is powerful.
the original social network,
I
and even something as simple as a well-designed business card.
never thought about it like that.
It can reinforce your brand identity. It's all about creating a cohesive experience, whether it's online or offline.
So even if someone isn't using social media, they still need a way for people to contact them, right?
Absolutely. A professional email address, a clear call to action, make it easy for people to connect.
Makes sense. So basically you're saying you don't have to be glued to your phone to build a personal brand.
You don't. It's about finding what works for you, what feels authentic.
And aligning it with your goals and values.
Exactly. And honestly, sometimes stepping away from the digital world can be incredibly refreshing.
Like a detox for your personal brand.
It can be. You focus on the core of your work, build relationships on a more human level.
I like that. Speaking of human connection, let's talk about some of the challenges women face when it comes to personal branding.
Okay.
We touched on imposter syndrome, fear of rejection, but are there other hurdles that are unique to women?
There are definitely some nuances there.
Like what?
Well, there's often this pressure for women to be likable, relatable.
More than men.
It can feel that way.
Yeah.
And it can overshadow their expertise, their accomplishments.
So they downplay their success to come across as more approachable.
It can happen. And it's a shame because women should feel empowered to showcase their achievements.
Own it.
Yes, without feeling like they have to apologize for being successful.
And then there's that whole superwoman expectation.
Oh, the pressure to do it all, have a perfect career, a perfect family, a perfect online presence.
It's exhausting.
It's impossible. And it can make women question themselves, feel like they're constantly being judged.
And not being taken seriously.
Yeah.
Especially in male-dominated fields.
That's a huge one. And the article actually mentioned a study about this.
What does it say?
It found that women are often seen as less competent or assertive when they promote themselves,
No way, seriously.
especially online. So it's a double standard, right? Men are encouraged to be confident, ambitious.
But women are seen as aggressive or pushy.
It's a real challenge.
Yeah.
And it can make women hesitate to put themselves out there.
So how do we break through these barriers? How do we build a personal brand that feels authentic and empowering as women?
Well, the article had some great advice about this. It starts with recognizing those societal expectations that can hold us back.
Don't let them define you.
Exactly. Define success on your own terms. Embrace your unique strengths and perspectives.
And don't be afraid to be ambitious.
Absolutely. Set boundaries, go after your goals. You don't have to be everything to everyone.
It's about finding that sweet spot between being your authentic self and strategically showcasing your skills.
You got it. And surround yourself with a supportive community. Find mentors. Connect with other women who are building their brands.
Like building your own cheer squad.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to seek out resources specifically for women entrepreneurs. There are so many amazing organizations out there.
That's so important. And sharing your story, I think that's crucial too.
Absolutely. By being open and authentic about their journeys.
Women can support each other.
Inspire each other. Shatter those limiting stereotypes.
Create a more inclusive, equitable world.
That's the goal, right? And it all comes back to that core idea of personal branding. It's about connecting with people, sharing your unique voice and perspective, using your influence to make a difference.
That's powerful. And makes me think about something else. As you build your personal brand, does it ever become bigger than you?
What do you mean?
Like, does it ever take on a life of its own?
That's an interesting question. You're thinking about when someone's passion, their expertise, it attracts a whole community.
Yeah. Like their brand becomes more than just them. It sparks a movement.
I see what you're saying, like a ripple effect. One person's vision inspires others to join their mission.
It becomes a force for change.
Exactly. And we see this all the time with influencers, right? They use their platform to advocate for causes, raise awareness.
They leverage their brand for good.
And that's what's so exciting about personal branding. It's not just about individual success. It's about making a difference in the world.
It's about using your voice to create something bigger than yourself.
Beautifully said. And it all starts with those first steps. Crafting a brand that's authentic, compelling, aligned with your values.
This has been awesome. So much to think about.
We've covered a lot, but there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to talk about.
What's that?
The ethical side of personal branding. Because with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Ooh, getting serious now.
It's important. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of likes and followers.
Lose sight of what really matters.
But the most fulfilling brands, the ones that last, they're built on authenticity, integrity.
A genuine desire to make a positive impact.
Exactly. So how do we navigate those ethical gray areas? How do we make sure we're using our personal brands for good?
Let's dive into that in the final part of our deep dive. All right, we're back. Ready to wrap up our personal branding deep dive.
Let's do it. We've talked about crafting your message, finding your voice.
But now it's time to get real about the ethics of it all.
Right. Because it's not all sunshine and roses. There are some real dilemmas that come up.
Yeah, what are some of those ethical challenges?
Well, one of the big ones is this pressure to present a perfect version of yourself.
Especially online. Everyone's always living their best life.
It's like this never-ending highlight reel.
And it's so easy to get caught up in comparing yourself.
Totally. And it can lead to some inauthenticity.
Like we hide our struggles, exaggerate our accomplishments.
Or even create a whole persona that's not really you.
So how do you avoid that trap? How do you stay genuine when you're building a brand?
I think it comes down to honesty. What are your motivations? Why are you doing this?
Are you trying to genuinely connect, share your expertise? Or is it more about ego or fame?
Right. Check your intentions. Make sure they're aligned with your values.
And be transparent with your audience.
Don't pretend to be perfect. No one is.
Being open about your struggles can actually make you more relatable.
Exactly. Vulnerability is powerful. It builds trust.
Okay, that makes sense. Another thing I've been thinking about is the potential for manipulation.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
When you're building a brand, you're trying to influence how people see you.
And that influence can be used in good ways or bad ways.
Like spreading misinformation or promoting things you don't actually believe in.
It's the dark side of personal branding.
So how do you stay on the right path?
It goes back to integrity, authenticity.
If you're being honest and genuine.
You're less likely to stray into that unethical territory.
And hold yourself accountable.
Yes. If you mess up, own it. Apologize. Learn from it.
We all make mistakes.
And it's how you handle them that matters.
It shows your true character.
Exactly. And remember, the world of personal branding is constantly changing. What was okay a few years ago might not be okay now.
So you guys have to stay informed, adapt.
Be willing to challenge your own assumptions.
It's a constant learning process.
It is. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Hit me with it.
We've talked about finding your voice, using your platform for good.
But how do you balance that with staying grounded, true to yourself?
It's a tough question. Like, can you build a strong brand without losing yourself in the process?
It's the ultimate balancing act, right?
It is, but I think it's possible.
Okay, so how do you do it? How do you walk that tightrope?
Start by defining your non-negotiables. What are your core values? What are you absolutely not willing to compromise on?
Draw that line in the sand.
Exactly. This is who I am. This is what I stand for.
And then stick to it.
Even when it's hard. Even when there's pressure to do otherwise.
Surround yourself with the right people.
People who support your authentic self.
Your cheer squad.
They'll celebrate your wins and call you out when you need it.
And don't be afraid to unplug sometimes.
Yes. Step away from the online world. Reconnect with yourself.
It's like a mental health break for your personal brand.
Exactly. And remember, personal branding, it's not a sprint.
It's a marathon.
Small steps, consistency.
Celebrate your wins along the way.
Give yourself permission to evolve and adapt as you learn.
This has been amazing. We've covered so much ground.
The good, the bad, the ethical dilemmas.
But ultimately, personal branding comes down to this.
Being authentic.
Using your voice for good.
Making a positive impact on the world.
So go out there, be yourselves, and shine.
And thanks for joining us on this deep dive.